DorkLair.
Welcome to another DorkLair action figure review. Today, I'm taking a look at the Mezco Supreme Knight Batman. And I just got to apologize. It has been a long time since I have posted a video. I am a school teacher and work started back up. And as a lot of you know, this year is not the same as any other year. So it's like being a first year teacher again. So just a ton of screen time, and editing videos is not the first thing I really want to be doing after work. So the videos might continue to be a little bit further apart, but here's an incredible Batman figure from Mezco. The Supreme Knight is just absolutely stunning. I love this figure. It's so cool. Awesome articulation. The suit is really neat. We got these neat features like the swappable capes and stuff. Just loaded with accessories. Incredible release right here. And it's got me super pumped for the exclusive Shadow Edition version of the Supreme Knight. That just is absolutely loaded. So yeah, this is an awesome figure. And as you're going to see throughout this review, I highly recommend it. So let's get into this review. The box is your standard Mezco packaging. You can see there it's got the reflective, glossy logos on the front, on the side, sort of the reversed colors on that side there. And then on the back, you get all the stuff, all the accessories. I will use this as I go through the accessories to know what everything is here. And then you get this side here. So yeah, pretty good packaging overall. Starting off the video with a look at the sculpt, paint, cloth, details, all that stuff. I still do have the wired cape on here. You know, if you're just going to pose it like this, you're better off using the straight cape, the loose cape, because, you know, it's just going to drape a little bit better. And then also, because the wire has a little thickness to it, the cowl rides up just a slight bit more when you have the wired cape on there. So if you're not going to pose it in a dynamic cape pose, I would say to use the other cape, but we'll get into the capes in a bit. All right, let's take a look at this head sculpt. I do personally, I really like the sculpt, but for me, it's slightly round, and I think maybe I'm just kind of associating it a little bit more with the Dark Knight Returns, the older, chunkier Batman. Even the symbol has kind of like that Dark Knight Returns feel to it. So I don't know, in my head, I think of Old Man Bruce as being a little more squared off in the jaw. So the roundish head feels, you know, a little off to me. But the sculpt work is awesome. And the face is really interesting. So I think I had this separate head on my phone, like a picture of him with that head. And it actually recognized my Ascending Knight Batman photo. And it tried to like ID match, like, you know how like the iPhone does that. So they did a really good job of aging their sculpted head, which is really cool. But anyway, so here's the look at Bruce Batman masked cowl. There's all sorts of like armor panels and stuff throughout the head. And then even in the body, like this particular suit, which I believe is going to be shared by the preview's exclusive blue one, you can see panels and stuff, which is a little bit different than the sort of musculature look of the Shadow one. But yeah, like there's panels in there. You can even see like rivets and stuff in those panels that are all part of the overlay on the fabric. A look at the symbol on the chest. It's a little big. I mean, I guess I get the sense that it's like this big piece of armor, but I do wish it was a little thinner. Like it's a very thick piece, and it just sticks out a lot and kind of feels slightly puffy. On the arms, there's almost like some of the other figures, like I think like Black Panther and maybe the exclusive Punisher has like that kind of grid, not grid, but like meshy looking pattern. And then again, like I said, there's various overlays throughout giving it armored look. Quick look at the gauntlets, ton of detail, lots of just tech almost looking stuff going on there. Now my belt, let me talk about the belt here. My belt, it comes off. Now, it's not supposed to, I don't think, because it doesn't really peg back on. So what I did when I got it, I assumed it was like all the other Batman from the trilogy of figures, and I just went and found that spot and just peeled it, and it was a little stuck, and it came unglued. It was glued originally, and so mine is unglued. I may try to bore a little hole on each part and then insert a magnet so that it magnetizes. But just be aware that you can remove the belt, but it doesn't really peg back on. Like it does, but it's not very secure. Like it can come off pretty easily. So if you undo your thing, just be aware of that. But the belt itself has a few different like paint tones, some gloss and some matte, tons of sculpted details. And then it's got the holster on the back where you can insert the grapple gun right there. Coming down into the knee pads, they're attached below, so they're attached on the lower part of the leg. But you can see again all that crazy tech sculpted armored bits. Awesome boots. I have a feeling we're going to see some people make some custom figures, even other characters with some of these parts on this like just brutally badass looking Batman. All right, let's see how Batman looks next to a few other figures. Of course, we're going to start off with the other two figures in the trilogy. On the left is the Sovereign Knight. On the right is the Ascending Knight, both standard releases here. And now that I have this belt off, it's actually kind of fun to swap these other belts back and forth with him and try to change up the looks and stuff. But really, this is awesome. I'm really happy with how the entire trilogy of Batman figures turned out from Mezco. They did an incredible job on this and just a lot of long-term vision in play here. And then we have a couple other Batman figures from Mezco. On the left is Batman Beyond, and on the right is the tactical suit from Justice League. And here he is next to a couple other Batman characters. On the left is the Mezco Harley Quinn, and on the right is the 112 Shop Red Hood, which is pretty much a Blade. So if you want to know how big Batman is next to Blade, that's the height right there. Here he is next to the two Mafex Batman comic book figures. And finally, a couple other action figure lines. On the left, we have a Marvel Legends Green Goblin, and then on the right, we have a Mythic Legions Kit Bash that I made. That's pretty much the same, close to the same formula as Rhaegar. All right, let's get into the accessories. So we're going to start with the head. So of course, here's the main head, just sort of like your stern-looking Batman. Here's the other masked head sculpt, more of an action, emotional head sculpt here with the gritting teeth, and I think the brow is a little more furrowed. And then here it is with the unmasked old man Bruce Wayne head, looking pretty sweet. They did a great job on the hair, and they did a really good job aging up that same Ascending Knight and Sovereign Knight unmasked Batman heads, and these Bruce Waynes really look like the same guy getting older and older. And just for some fun, let's try a few head swaps. So here's how the Sovereign Knight head looks on it. I think it looks incredible. I think this head looks just awesome on this figure, and I may put it on the shelf with a Sovereign Knight head. Doesn't look too bad with the Ascending Knight head. I just don't think it quite matches the look and style. I think it's maybe just like a little too thin. Finally, here's the Mafex head on there from The Dark Knight Returns, which I think also looks kind of cool, but I think it's like too far forward, and it makes it look a little bit odd. Also, it doesn't peg on. You have to actually remove the peg and just kind of sit it on there, or maybe get a custom peg or something like that, but it's not too bad. I kind of like that look, actually. Okay, getting into the accessories, he's got a variety of batarangs and weapons and things, and this particular, I don't know, like melee weapon is on a hinge, so he can hold it like this, or he can hold it almost like it swings over and it folds like that. So almost like an axe or something like that on this mode. And then it kind of has this little peg. It's very delicate, but pegs in over there. But the paint work on that's awesome, and the weathering, really nice piece. Second batarang is this one. I love this piece. Just big, huge batarang. Just an awesome piece, and just a lot of, again, cool weathering, chips and scratches on there, and a few different paint applications. Really nice piece. And then he's got a pack of 10 of these batarangs, which are pretty nice. Again, more chipping and weathering and scratches and stuff on there. Really nice color too. And then he's got like a 3-pack, like one sculpted together set of 3, to make it easier for him to hold 3 like that. So that's a pretty cool look. Here we have an equalizer cannon. So I think it's like a non-lethal gun for taking out the enemies. A lot of great sculpting, some gold accents in there. Great looking piece. This actually looks really cool. I posed it on a Gomez figure with some gold and black, and looked pretty cool with that too. And then we got the grapple gun. I really like this piece. The paintwork is excellent, super crisp, ton of detail on there. And then this grapple piece is removable. So you got a couple different versions of this. We have that one. We have the open one right here. About to fire, and then we have the one that's already fired, and it's on the string right here. You can take that off and unwind the string and peg this into the hole. There we go. So you got that hooked in there. I don't really ever use these. It's kind of a pain to try to pose, but that's the kind of sense you get from it. In addition to the fists on the figure, it comes with a pair of standard gripping hands here, and then a pair of gripping hands that have some space in between the figures so you can weave some of those batarangs. And then he's got a pair of gesturing action hands, which can also hold things like this. This batarang here fits actually really well in this hand too. So that's a great set of hands right there. And then he's got the single trigger finger hand for the grapple gun and a pair of hands for holding the disruptor, or the, I should say, the equalizer. And of course, lastly, since I didn't talk about the cape earlier, we can talk about it with accessories because technically they are. But here's a look at the wired cape. So the wired cape has a wire along this side, nice stiff wire too. It's got one right down the next seam here. And so I think there's 5 wires, one on each of those seams on the cape. So lots of great posing on this cape. Like, you can get it into pretty much any pose you would want. And then, so the neat feature, and pardon my belt, because like I said, it's not glued on there. One of the neat features here that you might have seen other people messing around with is that the head is on a magnet, or the cowl, I should say, is on a magnet. That pops right off. And then you can swap the other cape right on, which sits a little more flush because there's no wire. And that looks good for like neutral poses where you're not going to have the cape in a crazy windblown look. Of course, here's a quick look at the stand that he comes with, the peg stand, and then the flight arm that all the Mezcos come with. And then here's a look at the figure without the belt on. I think that even looks pretty awesome too. The body on this thing is just badass. This is just a cool looking figure. And let's get into the articulation. So, you know, the heads can be a little bit tricky because as you articulate the head, you might feel like you're going to move that back. So you've got to kind of hold the cowl, or even like take it off and pose the head and then get it to where you want it and put it back on. But lots of great movement. You can see there's a double ball at the top there. Obviously no lower neck articulation because of the cowl, but you can move that cowl a little bit if you want to. My figure moves really well. I mean, look at how far up that arm goes, comes back down. The joints are nice, and they have that awesome thing that I like about premium figures where the joints are simultaneously tight and smooth, which is really good. You can swing back. There is a swivel up at the bicep, and the suit is just sort of loose enough compared to the other ones that it allows for some great motion. So continuing with the arms, the shoulder does have a little bit of butterfly action, so he can move his shoulder back and forth there. And then the elbows are double jointed, but because he's so chunky, there's going to be a little bit of limitation there with that armor. You can twist at the gauntlet, and then the hand is on that ball and hinge. Again, limited slightly by how much armor he has. Up in the torso, upper torso, let me try to hold the waist here. The torso can crunch forward, back quite a bit. He can go side to side, and so he can swivel around that pretty well. And then at the waist, again, there's a swivel. Mine's a little tight at the waist, but it's getting looser. And then you can crunch back and forth at the waist too. So put those together, and you got about that much crunch forward, which is not a ton, but you know, on a big, heavy armored Batman like this, I don't really know that you need to have crazy acrobatic poses. Going into the legs, nice bit of looseness in the suit gives him the ability to flex out way into the splits. He can kick forward and back. There's a twist at the upper thigh, and then his double jointed knee will bring it up this far. There's a tiny bit of twist down at the boot, not really a functional amount of it, unless mine's just stiff. And then the feet can come down this far. They don't go forward too much. And and then they have a little bit of rocker. If you kind of mess with it, you can get it rocked that far. So pretty minimal articulation down in the ankles, unfortunately, but there's a bit there. Overall, I love this figure. There has been so many good Batman figures and so many good Mezco figures this year, and as we kind of get closer to the end of the year, I'm starting to wonder like what my favorite Batman is. And this is definitely going to be up there on the list. I have a feeling I'm going to end up really liking the Shadow version as my favorite of these, just because it's so versatile and has like all the different logos and they're magnetic on that one. But this is a solid figure. I know the production run was a little bit lower on this one than recent ones, and it is starting to sell out. So if you want one, I would suggest grabbing it. The Mezco kind of like waiting game is getting a little more difficult. A lot of figures are starting to sell out faster. So, you know, if you want this figure, grab it. It's still available, but it might not be for long. Anyway, thanks for watching, and until next time, may the force be with you.